Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around for this very entertaining topic, hypertension management. I'm Simran Sethi. I'm an internal medicine physician in private practice, a concierge medicine practice, and I'm also Chief Strategy Officer at Blend Health. There we go. Okay, hypertension. We all know about it. We also know that it's a silent epidemic, and it's silent because normally you don't feel it. If you're hypertensive, you don't have any symptoms per se, unless you have end organ damage. And when it comes to medical management of hypertension, we've always relied on a more reactive approach, which is we check people's kidney function. They come in with a stroke or a heart attack, and then we find out that they have hypertension, which is causing that. Hypertension is so prevalent that it actually is in so many different subsegments of medicine, ranging from cardiovascular disease to renal disease. It's the major cause of end-stage renal disease and dialysis in the US. Strokes and cerebral hemorrhages, but also in maternity. With advancing maternal age, there has been a greater prevalence of preeclampsia, which is hypertension in pregnancy, that affects 2 lives. The reason why hypertension has become such a prevalent problem, and usually is considered pretty boring, is because we actually don't have any solutions to understand it properly. And that comes down to monitoring hypertension. And when you think about when your last blood pressure was checked, you were likely in a clinic or at CVS and having a one-time reading and maybe once a year, if that. And that's exactly why we fail in hypertension management today. Our current solutions involve going to a clinic, getting your blood pressure read at one time, and that reading may not tell us anything. In fact, as a physician, that it's very, very difficult to measure for patient compliance with medications and also their response to medications. Second, going back to compliance, if we were to expect a patient to repeatedly take their blood pressure, they would have to wear an uncomfortable cuff that would inflate and deflate, and clearly they would only do that a few times a day. The other problem is that we've never actually in medicine gathered continuous blood pressure monitoring data in an ambulatory outpatient setting. When we think of continuous blood pressure monitoring, you're usually thinking of an ICU bed. That can only give us that gives us a snapshot into a very limited group of patients. Blend solves all those problems. Our cuffless wearable monitoring device will give us readings continuously of people's blood pressure. And because it is so unobtrusive, we expect that the compliance will be very, very high. The device is a very light, very discreet device that is not competing for real estate on your arms or fingers. And the readings will go to an app that will not only deliver insights to the person wearing the device, but also to the clinical team that takes care of them. Our plan is to take all this data and summarize it for clinicians so that they can use it in any way they want. They can get a summary of their patients' readings, their patients' response to medications, food, alcohol, exercise, and they can also get an overall snapshot of their panel of patients. And when I did primary care primarily, I had a panel of thousands of patients, and a lot of the insurance companies actually graded me on my management of hypertension of these patients. So even if physicians and healthcare systems want to look at this data from a more global view, they can do that. Our technology has been validated. It has also been patented with strong patents. We do have I would say, an aggressive but achievable timeline to FDA approval. We are currently collecting data on real patients so that we can prepare for our pre-sub with the FDA in Q3 of this year. And then we will go into our clinical trials and hoping to commercialize very early on in 2027. when you look at the competitive landscape, there are very few ambulatory continuous blood pressure monitoring devices that do the things that Blend Health does. When you think of blood pressure monitoring, usually you're thinking of an inpatient scenario, but this is absolutely not an inpatient device. We are an outpatient monitoring device that will be comfortable to wear, so that'll increase compliance. And it is going to be worn on the upper arm. And I'm going to give you a little more detail on why that is so important. And that is accuracy. Accuracy in blood pressure management is extremely important from a clinical standpoint, because a variation of just 10 milligrams of mercury is going to make a huge difference in how you manage a patient. And the problem with blood pressure is that if you take a medication to lower it, you cannot take a medication to increase it. So unlike diabetics who can get hypoglycemic if they gave themselves too much insulin or took a medication that made their blood sugar go down, who can then reverse that by eating something sweet, we cannot do that with blood pressure, which is why blood pressure management has to be very accurate. Of course, you know from the beginning of this talk that this is a very, very sizable market, and we plan to generate revenue by selling our device with approximately a small fee of $400, and then, of course, and build revenue with a subscription model, which is par with a lot of the wearables today. Our expansion plan involves first starting off in a niche market, and that's concierge medicine practices. In these practices, patients pay out of pocket to get more personalized care, and these physicians rely on a lot of data so that they can deliver that care. So this is the market we are planning to launch in, and we've actually already, between all our physician advisors, received very positive feedback. As we expand in that market, collect more data, and build more insights, analytics, and start developing predictive models, our aspiration is actually to become a data company. Because, as I told you earlier, we've never in medicine have we collected continuous blood pressure readings in an ambulatory setting. So in general, there's a lot of excitement on what we're going to learn from this. We have a pretty diverse leadership team that has some serial entrepreneurs. There are 3 of us here today at LSI, so I hope if you have any questions, you will find us. Thank you so much for your attention so late in the day.